All right, so this is the review for quiz number 14 for tomorrow, okay? So question number one says, what do you call a polynomial that has one term, two terms, or three terms, okay? And actually, let me add in one more right here, four terms. Put four or more. Okay, so four or more terms. So one term is a monomial, right? So a monomial. And again, this is not something I taught you guys. It's just something you're supposed to know, but it's good to review because as you guys saw, it was part of your homework, right? And it's going to be part of your quiz. So one term is a monomial. Two terms, this is a binomial. Three terms is trinomial. And then four or more, that was just polynomial, okay? Remember, the word poly means many. So, but for the first three, we do have specific names. These are all polynomials. One term, two terms, three terms, four terms, they're all polynomials. We can classify them all as polynomials. But the first three have specific names, right? Tri for three, bi for two, mono for one, okay? So, so that's what you were going to have to know. Okay, now why would you need to know that? Because they might ask you like, okay, based on the degree, what is it? And then how many terms? Well, it has two terms, so it's a binomial, it's a trinomial, that type of stuff. It was in your homework, so that's what we're just kind of going over. Okay, question number two. Again, nothing difficult to do. It's probably going to take you longer to write this thing down than it is to actually do the work or give me the answer. Question number two says, what do you call a polynomial with the degree of, and then 4, 1, 5, 2, and 3. So degree meaning with the highest power of a 4, right, for part A. With the highest power of a 1 for part B, right? So it might have other powers, but the highest power is going to be one of those. So if it's a fourth power, we called it quartic. Okay, if it's a first power, what did we call it? Anybody remember? Linear. Okay, so linear. Fifth power was quintic, right? Second power, yeah, this is the one that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Because you think of quad as 4, right? So quadratic. And then the power of 3, cubic. Okay, and there you go. So in yesterday's homework, I think it was yesterday's homework, was it? Or was it the day before? No, I think it was in 412, where you had to identify as quartic binomials or quadratic trinomials, right? So it was kind of a mix of number 1 and 2 here, okay? So make sure you know that stuff. All right, now moving into what we did yesterday, okay? So moving into what we did yesterday, it says, what are the roots of these polynomials? Okay, so we have y equal to 3x times x minus 4 squared times x plus 7. We're trying to find the roots. Now, what was another word for roots? Zeros, right? And the word zero is actually kind of a hint because that means set it equal to 0, right? So you can think of it as, and if you don't want to write roots, you can write zeros. Okay? That way you know, like, okay, set it equal to 0. So now I'm going to do that. 3x times x minus 4 squared times x plus 7 is equal to 0. And then what you're supposed to do is split this all apart and start solving. So 3x equals to 0. X minus 4 squared equals to 0. X plus 7 equals to 0. Well, if we start solving the first one, 3x equals to 0, I get to divide both sides by 3. So I get x is equal to 0. Okay, so that one's done. For the next one, I'm going to write x minus 4 equal to 0. And I'm going to start solving for that minus 4. Okay, so I'm adding a 4 to that side. I get x is equal to 4. So that one's done. And then the last one, I'm going to get x plus 7. Set that equal to 0. I'll move that over. X is negative 7. How many answers do I have? 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we have 4. 4 answers, okay? Now, if you only see 3, you're not going blind. There are only 3 answers that we solve for. Negative 7, a 4, and a 0. Okay, we only solve for 3 answers, but which one has more than one multiplicity? X equals 4, right? That one has multiplicity of what? 2, right? So remember, here it's x to the first, here it's x plus 7 to the first, and then the middle one has a square there, so I'm just going to kind of highlight it. So 0 only occurs once. Okay, the power tells you how many times it occurs. So 0 only occurs once. 4 occurs twice. And then negative 7 only occurs once. So that's a total of 4 answers. 0 occurs once, 4 occurs twice. So 0, 4, 4, and negative 7. There's 4 solutions there. Now to write it out properly, it's going to look something like this. Negative 7, comma, 0, comma, 4, multiplicity 2. Remember, if it has multiplicity 1, we don't write that. Okay, we never write multiplicity 1. Now 0 and negative 7, just to kind of think ahead, if we have to do this, 0 and negative 7, those are odd multiplicity, right? Because their powers are 1. They're odd. That means if you were looking at a graph, it passed through. Okay? Whereas 4 came from a power of 2. That 4 is even multiplicity, which means it would bounce off of that number when you're looking at a graph. Okay? So just kind of don't forget about that. We're going to discuss that in the review, but just kind of think about that when we do it. Any questions on this one before I move on? By the way, tomorrow's quiz is going to be on quizzes. Okay? So you're going to need your computer. All right? Make sure you guys have your computer charged and ready to go. So here's another one of the same type, trying to find the zeros. Okay, so all I'm going to do is get each piece, break, and set it equal to 0 here. So x minus 1 cubed, x plus 2 squared is equal to 0. So just rewrite them separated and set them equal to 0. How many solutions am I going to find? 5, right? I'm only going to literally find 2, but there's going to be 5 total, right? Some of them repeat twice, some of them repeat 3 times. Okay, so let me go ahead and start solving this one. X minus 1 equals 0. So x is equal to 1. There you go. And then this will be x plus 2 equals to 0. So x is negative 2. So there you go. I found 2 solutions, right? But they have multiplicities, right? 1 has a multiplicity of 3. It came from here, power of 3. And the negative 2 has a multiplicity of 2. So if I were to write the numbers out, I'd say x is equal to negative 2, 1, 1, 1. Okay? But you can't do that. Not in a representation of all your answers. You're not supposed to repeat inside of the set. So that's why we write multiplicity. So here we go. My answer is x equal to negative 2 with multiplicity 2 and 1 with multiplicity 3. I mean, honestly, guys, this isn't that difficult. You just got to know where to find the information, right? Just know, reference the power. Solving, the stuff that we're doing in solving, you guys have been solving like this all year. It's not like this is brand new. This is just repetitive. Just that before, you guys never really knew that if it had a power up there, it meant something else. Right now, we're starting to give you guys some more information about that. But before you just solve it, and that was it. Now you just got to give it a little bit more meaning, right? The powers mean something more. So, all right, any questions on this one? Yeah, so we have 5 total answers. -2 occurs twice, and 1 occurs 3 times. Now, this one is supposed to be really easy. This is really going to take a lot more time to write down than answering. Okay? But the maximum number of turns. Okay? In order to find the maximum number of turns, what do I do? Anybody remember? How do I find the maximum number of turns? All right, so she said find the largest number for the power and subtract it by 1. That's correct. A different word for what she said in the beginning is find the degree, which is the largest power in the function, right? So find the degree and subtract 1. That's it. Okay? Find the degree, subtract 1. So for part A, what is my degree? It's 5, right? That's the highest power. So that means that the max number of turns is going to be 5 minus 1. So that'll be 4. And that's it. That's all the work you have to do. It's no more than that. You don't even have to write degree like I did. It's just, I'm doing that just to make a point. We need the degree, and then we subtract 1 from it. Okay? But honestly, I would just have written 4. I would have not even written any work. Okay? What's my answer for part B? 6, right? Because it's 7, that's the highest power, minus 1, so it's 6. Now, of course, like I said, I'm just going to write down that the degree is 7, and my max turns is 7 minus 1. Oops, I forgot to put this properly, bless you. So it's going to be 7 minus 1, which is 6. Okay? But you don't have to write any of that. Just in your head, just get the highest power, subtract 1, write it down, move on. Okay? You don't have to show any work for this stuff. It's too simple to show any work. But this is for the people that aren't here, right? And stuff like that. Which, by the way, if you aren't here and you're listening to this video, yes, you have to take the quiz tomorrow if you're not here. It's just a review. You didn't miss anything. All right. After this, we got one more and then we're done. Okay? Now, this might be the hardest part of your quiz. Okay? Because this requires you guys to remember definition. Okay? Is your power, the degree or the n value, right? The degree, is it even or odd? And if it's even or odd, is your A positive or negative? And if A is positive or negative, what does that mean? Right? So there's 4 different things you have to memorize. If n is even and A is positive. If n is even and A is negative. If n is odd and A is positive. If n is odd and A is negative. Okay? There's 4 different things you guys have to know. So this one says describe the n behavior. Well, notice for part A, what's my degree? For part A. My height, no, degree, 6, right? My degree is 6. That's even. So my highest power is even. What's my A term? 2, which is positive. It's not negative 2, it's positive 2. So my degree, my n value is even. My A term is positive. So what does it do? Not falling. Rises and rises. Yeah, remember, even power, when n is even, they both do the same thing, up, up, or down, down. It's when n is odd that they change direction. Okay? So this one would rise to the left and rise to the right. You don't have to do any work. That's it. You just got to tell me what it's doing. Okay? What's the n value in part B? My highest power, what is it? 3. So it's odd. And A, what is A? Negative 6. So A is negative. So N is odd. A is negative. So I think it's backwards. It rises left and falls right, right? Nobody has that in notes out? But it should rise to the left, falls to the right. Okay, so odd highest power, negative A term. Okay, that goes from here and it'll kind of like go downwards to the right side. So, so an example of like a qubit function that looks like this would be an example of what this graph looks like. It looks something like that. Okay, this one right here rises left and right. So an example of this would be like something like that. That's what a sixth power looks like. Similar. But this one would look something like that towards the endpoints. Not that you have to know that, I'm just showing you. Okay? So that you can see how I'm verifying that it is rising to the left, falling to the right side. Okay? So, but yeah, I mean, no work required, but memorization. You guys have to have it. Okay? I remember this is going to be on quizzes, so you're just going to have to pick the two options that make sense, right? So it'll say like rises to the left, rises to the right, falls to the left, falls to the right. You pick the two that describe it. Okay? All right, last one. And you don't have to draw the picture if you don't want to. Okay, just make sure you understand what we're doing. You can look at the picture later on. Remember what I told you guys yesterday. The picture itself doesn't matter so much as where it's crossing the x-axis. That's the important part. I don't care so much that it's going as high as 1, 2, and as low as like -1.5, almost -1. I don't care about the highs and the lows so much as I care about where it touches the x-axis. That's the more important part for me. Okay, how many zeros does this one have? 4 of them, right? Remember, zeros on a graph means how many times does it touch the x-axis, right? So the 4 zeros are going to be -2, -1, 0, and 2. Those are my 4 zeros. Okay, that's where it touches the x-axis at -2, -1, 0, and 2. What's the multiplicity on -2? Now, I don't mean give me a number. Even or odd, what is it? For this one right here, -2. Notice it's going through. What is that, even or odd? Even? No, it's odd. Odd goes through. Even bounces. What about -1? That's odd, right? Because it went through. What about 0? That's even, yeah. This is even, okay? So notice, because right here it turned back, right? It went back, it went down, and then it curved back up. It's like a trampoline. It hit it and it went back up, right? And then the last one at 2, what is that? Odd, right? And that's all you have to write. I don't need to know the number. You don't have to say multiplicity 2, multiplicity 3, because the thing is that at 0, it could be multiplicity 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. It can be anything. It just has to be even, okay? And at -2, -1, and 2, it could be a 3, a 5, a 7, a 9, any odd number. So you can't really tell me specifically what multiplicity it is, but you can tell me what kind of multiplicity, even or odd. Okay? So that's it. This is all you guys need to know for tomorrow's quiz. I mean, relatively, I would say straightforward, not too tricky.